I have the Grizzlies, and I'm going to start my run of big. It's only too long. I went with Steven Adams, and I think like Batum, the contract is a problem for him in terms of how he's perceived, and I think also because he's a big guy that can barely move. It looks like sometimes, which is just basically going extinct and is almost has almost gone extinct in the league. That hurts him, but like you think of the team, so he's had a little bit of a trip, over the last several years because he was there through several iterations of some like very good and then very different and very I don't know, ever changing Thunder teams. And then he was on the Pelicans weirdly, and now he's on the Grizzlies.
He was
But
on the
his
Pelicans weirdly.
his well, right, doesn't that feel like that never happened? Um, but his on offs are good every year. So and that's through and again, like I said this last time, those are noisy, except when you're changing teams as often as he has, and the personnel around you keeps changing, and the one constant is you're going against starters every night, and your team outscores them, and so eventually the correlation becomes causation to some extent. So that's the first thing I kind of looked at with him. The other thing, this is just like the great, of course, Steven Adams leads in all this stuff. League leader in total screen assists, league leader in box outs. And so as a result, and he crushes, he's got by far the most box outs on the offensive boards because he just like can't be moved. And when a shot goes up, I would like to stand here now, please, gentlemen, please get out of the way. I will occupy this space right under the hoop and nobody can do anything. And so Memphis leads the league in second chance points by like a ton. And that's like, it's because of him. That's it. Full stop. Partly like it's just that's an asset to a team, and it's not something you think about when you're valuing players. So that's also part of the reason that his positive net swings are mostly on offense. Defensively, not so great because of his mobility, but he adds a ton on offense just because he gets in the middle of the restricted area and can't be moved by anybody. So that's huge. Raptor has him number 2 on Memphis, which is hilarious. EPM doesn't like him quite as much, but he's still in the positive there. He's also a good passer. His assist percentages are always high for his position. And he's decent if he's the primary defender at the rim inside 6 feet. About 58% is the field goal percentage allowed, which is like not elite, but it's good. It's better than average. So all that put together with like his really sneaky value on offense, which I don't think most people would think of first with him. I think he's still like a really good, better than average, maybe fringy, like top 12 starting center in the league. And is the type of guy that like just keeps showing up on really good teams. So I really like him. I think he's gotten a bad rap because of the money and because of just the position and the way he plays it.
And that trade was roasted when they did it because the thought was that they gave up just a lot of Valanciunas was the better player. I think overall you still make that argument, but Steven Adams has still been good for Memphis. And when that sort of coincides with the growth you've seen from Jaren Jackson Jr. on both ends of the floor, that is super valuable to you. So yeah, there's still just a dirty work guy who does everything well. And like you said, he doesn't move as well on defense anymore, but that's just like, and I'm worried about, I think he's going to be valuable to them in the playoffs. I wonder how they sort of hold up defensively though, when he's on the court. At the same time, their offense makes me uneasy because of how predicated on getting out in transition or second chance opportunities. Like just how reliant it is on both of those play types. And they're going to need the latter because I imagine that when you have time to really zero in on a team for a best of 7 series, you're going to be able to take away, unless you play the Lakers, a lot of those transition opportunities, maybe not in the first round, depending on who you pull, but definitely in the second round. So he could end up being incredibly valuable to them. My pick for this team, and I'm like mad, I'm not mad, I'm happy for Desmond Bane, but I'm normally behind the 8 ball. I was so far in front of the 8 ball with him. I saw him in summer league and I was like, he is going to be so good this year. But he was just so good immediately that Desmond Bane is mainstream. Desmond Bane is mainstream now. Think about that.
He might be in danger of being overrated pretty soon. Like
fair enough. He's gone
closer to that.
He's been like returning to solid ground lately, so that's fair. And I think you could just make a case for Kyle Anderson. The pace at which he plays is all his own. It's so like idiosyncratic. I love it. But my pick is Tyus Jones. I just like solid when, and also when he's like actually hitting threes at anything that's resembling an okay clip, I just don't know. Like he is one of the single best backup point guards in the NBA. 50.2% on twos this year, 36.5% on threes. True shooting is still all over the place. It's not great, under 54. But this guy does not turn the ball over. In the 3-point era, which is as far as turnover percentage goes back, here's a list of every player to assist on at least 25% of their team's buckets when they're on the court. So have a 25 assist percentage or higher when they're on the floor, while having a turnover rate under 8. And they have to qualify for minutes per game. So I wanted volume in here. Here's a list of every player with an under 8 turnover rate and an over 25 assist percentage for the year. Tyus Jones, that is the end of the list. That is, I know what type of role he's playing, and I know he's not some like genius maestro, but that is incredible to me. And like the only comps that come up is so like Kemba 8.3 turnover rate in 2014, 2015. Michael Jordan 8.4 turnover rate in 92, 93. T-Mac in 2002, 2003. Michael Jordan again, Vince Carter. So it's like, and by the way, Tyus Jones appears twice in the top 10 on this list. So it's all these secondary playmakers who weren't even, except for Kemba Walker, except it was 24-year-old Kemba Walker. And the fact that he only had a 27 assist percentage that season is indicative of how score first he was at that time. Still, aside from Kemba Walker, like you're looking at mostly these secondary playmakers, whereas Tyus Jones is the actual backup point guard here. So there's just the ability to protect the ball and run just sound plays and not make mistakes is huge. And that's someone, I believe he's entering free agency this year. I'd be curious to see what he gets or whether they feel the need to keep him around, because they have higher end concerns or higher end priorities on this roster, but like they don't really have, DeAnthony Melton doesn't play the same type of game. Do you want Ziaire Williams to take on like the maestro reps? I'm way higher on Ziaire Williams than I was at the start of the season. Do you think Desmond Bane can take on that type more playmaking responsibilities? He just might be someone who low key they need to keep around for a minute.
Yeah, Jones is an example of another player type that is always underrated. In addition to the guy who guards 4 positions that we keep covering, and he just he doesn't do anything wrong, right? Like the worst he can be is an adequate game manager who will not turn it over, will take the right shots. And like defensively, he's undersized, but like he's always way up there in steals per minute. He's always up there in deflections. He never fouls, like ever. It's unbelievable how he can play backcourt defense without fouling. That's really hard to do. So yeah, I love that pick. I love that as another one. This, go figure, Memphis, one of the best teams in the league, has a bunch of guys that are underrated from a small market. That kind of checks out.